You know, some machines are just tools, but others, they change absolutely everything. Today, we're going to deconstruct a true legend, the Akai Mpc 60. Now, this isn't just some drum machine. For so many producers, this is the instrument that defined the sound of entire genres. So think of this as your very first session. We're going to power it on, learn its language, and find out exactly what made this box a revolution.
And you really can't talk about the Mpc 60 without talking about the person who created it. You see this signature? It's right there in the manual. It's not just a name. It's this stamp of personality on a piece of technology. It's a great reminder that behind this iconic gray box was one person, Roger Linn, who had a very clear vision for what the future of music could be.
And what a vision it was. This quote, which is actually part of his welcome message to anyone who bought one, it sets the tone immediately. This thing wasn't designed to be just another gadget in the studio. No, it was an invitation, maybe even a challenge, to go out and revolutionize music itself.
All right, challenge accepted. So let's do it. Let's imagine we're stepping back to the late 80s. We're going to fire this thing up for the very first time and walk through the basics, just like a producer would have way back then.
So powering on the legend, you got to understand, getting started with the Mpc 60 isn't like booting up a laptop today. It was a physical process, almost like a ritual that connected you to the hardware from the very first moment.
The steps themselves are pretty simple, but take a close look at number 3. You had to insert a floppy disk with all your sounds on it every single time you powered it on. There was no internal hard drive, no instant on feature. This tactile step, sliding that disk in, was your entry point to making music. And after you hit that power switch, you waited for about a minute and a half. But look closely at that warning on the screen. All memory is lost when power is off. This is so crucial. The Mpc 60 had what's called volatile memory, which means if you didn't save your work to a floppy disk before you shut it down, poof, it was gone forever. This forced a certain kind of discipline, a save-your-work mentality that modern tools have kind of let us forget.
So once it's all loaded up, you land here. This is the main screen. Now, I know, to our modern eyes, it might look kind of basic, but this screen is where you speak to the machine. You just have to learn its language first.
And the most fundamental concept is the data field. See that little blinking block, the cursor? It doesn't move character by character like in a text document. No, it jumps between these specific locations on the screen where you can change a parameter. That's your point of interaction. That's how you talk to the machine's brain.
And changing that data was just brilliantly flexible. You could be super precise and type in a tempo like 90.9 BPM with the keypad, or you could be more intuitive, just ignore the numbers and feel it out with that big data dial. This blend of technical precision and creative feel is really at the very heart of the MPC workflow. And get this, for a machine from the 80s, this is pretty incredible. If you ever got lost, you just had to press and hold one button, help, and a full paragraph of explanation would pop up for whatever field you were on. It was kind of like having the entire manual built right into every single screen.
Okay, let's move on to the main event, the pads. This is what the MPC is famous for. These 16 gray squares became the canvas for countless classic beats. Their feel and their expressiveness are, well, they're legendary.
Right out of the box, the pads are dynamic, which means they respond to how hard you hit them, just like a real drum. But with the press of a single button, full level, you could make every single hit play at maximum velocity. This super simple feature gave producers instant control over the energy of their drums, and it's perfect for those hard-hitting hip-hop beats. And this is where the creative depth just shines. The 16 levels button could take any single sound and map it across all 16 pads. You could create 16 different volumes, which is perfect for programming nuanced little ghost notes. But here's the real game changer. It can also create 16 different tunings. All of a sudden, that one bass sample became a playable bass line, that one horn stab transformed into an entire melody.
Okay, so we've powered it on, we've learned the language, we understand the pads. I think it's time to put it all together and play our first beat. This is home base, the play/record screen. Don't be fooled by the simple text. This is the command center for every sequence you will ever create on this machine. From here, you control everything, which sequence is playing, the tempo, the time signature, all your individual tracks.
But hidden behind that simple text is some serious power. You press the drum mix key, and this pops up. A full 16-channel graphic mixer. You could adjust the volume and stereo pan for each individual drum sound, and it was all represented visually. This really shows off that whole studio-in-a-box philosophy of the Mpc 60.
So we've seen the interface, the pads, the mixer.
what does it all actually sound like when it all comes together?
Well, it's this simple. You use the data wheel, you select one of the preloaded sequences, you can see the tempo is set to 90.9, but hey, you could change that on the fly if you wanted to. Then you just hit one button, play start. And you hear the sound that changed everything.
Hearing those classic sequences, it all just clicks, doesn't it? It wasn't just one feature. It was how all the pieces, the workflow, the sound, even the limitations, how they came together to create something legendary. An echo we can still hear in music all over the place today.
Ultimately, the MPC60 gave artists a workflow that was, well, legendary. It combined those super expressive pads with a fast, fluid sequencer and a really powerful internal mixer. And maybe most importantly, its limitations, like that volatile memory and having to load from disks, it fostered this focused, deliberate approach to making music that it defined an era.
And that leaves us with one last thought. The MP60 really proved that a tool isn't just a passive object. It actively shapes the art you make with it, from the unique swing of its sequencer to the signature punch of its sound. It really makes you wonder, how much does your tool shape the art you create?